Flags, standards, colours, banners, eagles, you've probably heard dozens of names for them, and today I'll show you how to fit them to your miniatures, but more than just fit them, how to make them look good. For that secret, stay till about minute 6. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Clark Commando 1983 as he requested this video a few weeks ago. Check out his channel, link below, and please support me by liking, subscribing and commenting. So today I'm going to be using the flags which came with the pike and shot miniatures, and I'm going to be doing 3 different bases, one being command base, one being a pike base and one being a mounted dragoon base. Some of you might notice that with the pikes, as I've got them here, they don't actually have a standard bearer, but we're going to use one of the pikes as the standard bearer. Anyway, so first thing you've got to do is decide on which standard you're going to be using. If you don't have a sheet, then you can always look online, find images, you can paint them yourself, you could print them off, there's many options to get flags, but find the one that's suitable and cut it out. You've got a couple of options. One is using a craft knife, possibly the easiest method. The second is using scissors, and for me, I find that I like to cut them out initially using the knife and then using the scissors just to take out the big areas once they're free from the main sheet. With especially the cavalry banners, you'll see there's these little areas where they're recessed, so you just need to get your craft knife, in my case a standing knife, and just slice those pieces out, otherwise you're going to have white marks showing through, which you don't really want. But do take your time here because you don't want them to actually tear. Next up, fold them over the way that they're supposed to be down the centre, and then I like to give them a little bit of an extra crease up at this stage, just because that's going to help us out later, making them a little bit more malleable, and that way we can get the sort of the wind blown effects. Now I put a little spot pea size of glue, PVA, this is actually wood glue, but they all do the same sort of thing, and then water it down and then just paint it on. If you leave it just a little bit to let that sort of water and glue just soak into the paper, that's also going to help us out. Then fold it round and get it into the right spot. With the glue, it's worth not watering it down too much. You want it to have a bit of tack to it. Then I use my long nose pliers here to pinch it in around the flag pole itself, and then using my fingers, or you could use those, again, the long nose, I twist it round and get it into this positioning that I need. And in the end it gives you some quite good sort of windswept effects. Next up, we're going to do the foot sloggers. So this time they're going to be royalists, so if you've followed a true historical regimental colour scheme, then you're going to want to use the appropriate flag, whereas if you're not and you're just using the flags in general, it doesn't really matter, so do what works for you. In my case, I just chose the green ones because I like green, not because I'm representing them specifically. I didn't do any research into the uniforms. If you check out my painting tutorial for the pikemen, you'll see that I've just done most of my royalists in a more royal red colour and my parliamentarians in the sort of buff tan colour. So we're going to give these flags the same old treatment as before, scrunching them up and, well, bending them in half first and then scrunching them up. You don't have to do this. If you like your flags to be nice and square and crisp and just looking fresh, sort of fresh out of the packet, then that's fine. But if you want them to have that slightly more windswept effect, then this is, in my opinion, the way to go. Using the same PVA and watered down PVA method, let it soak in. As I said, that'll allow the paper to just become a little bit more malleable. And now, with the pike and shot flags, do be careful because you get 2 of them, one which is the sort of the colonel or the commander's colour, and one which is the regimental colour. or the first captain or something like that, so just make sure you get the right one with the right figure. But yeah, as I said before, I find to start with, squeeze it into place using your fingers. Sometimes they will be slightly out of line, so just move the paper around and make sure that it lines up the way you want. Then using the pinchers, long nose pliers, whatever you have to hand, squeeze it in around that pole, and then bend the paper up, and then get your effect, whatever it is you're going for. And then sometimes, depending on how much you watered the glue down by, you may need to just go in a couple of times whilst it's drying and just re-pinch it, just to make sure you don't get any gaps. Now these are some Prussian flags that I managed to find just online, just to give you an example of what is out there. If you were to take that onto Word, you could expand it out or shrink it down for whichever scale miniatures you're working with. So now, after the miniatures have dried, I put them outside for about 10 minutes, brought them back in, and you can just see around the edges a little bit of white showing through. So get the closest colour that you have, or mix one up, to the colour of the flag, and then just paint those edges. Just don't make a mistake here. I was about to cover up where there's the St George's cross in the top. I was going to go green all along, but managed to catch myself before I did that, so just take your time and make sure you don't make errors. But yeah, as you can see there, you can see there is a bit of a surround now of a different tone, but the sort of the secret, if you really want to call it that and be all flamboyant, will come shortly in how to sort that out. But again, just green around the edges, covering any of the white paper that shows through. And then dark blue for the dark blue flag, or pennant. So the piece you've all been waiting for, the secret. I just use khaki. It's khaki which comes from, in my case, model colour, but you can use any sort of light tan khaki colour. And then we're just going to very, very lightly dry brush the flags. Do it over the edges, but do it over the entire thing, not just the edges, I should say. That way what it's going to do, it'll dull down the green or blue or whatever colour you've just put around the edge, and help that to blend in with the remainder of the flag. Plus, if you think about it, these flags are not museum pieces, or they weren't at the time. They were being marched dozens to hundreds of miles. They were on smoky battlefields. Yeah, they weren't pristine. They didn't have washing machines or anything in those days, so they were a little bit, although highly treasured and they were taken care of, they were always going to have a bit of dirt and dust on them. So if you can use a bit of dry brushing here, it'll really make them look like they're in the middle of a battle and cover up that sort of dark edge that you might get. But overall, that's my method for doing flags. I hope you found it useful and it helps you to get your troops looking good for the battlefield. I have got a few different scales. So we've got here the sort of 15mm pike and shot. You can see the little 6mm at the front right, and then 25mm Napoleonics at the back. Same technique for those. With the Napoleonics, they are actually some that my dad had, so they are 30, 40 years old, and they're still, he used the same method. I haven't touched them to try and improve them, they are just what they are. You can see a bit of battle damage on them, let's put it that way. But that actually adds to the effect, for me anyway. I might try and touch them up a little bit in the future. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.